Barron Trump's recommendation for his father to appear on the Joe Rogan Experience was reportedly part of a broader effort to modernize the Trump campaign's outreach strategy. With traditional media losing traction among younger audiences, Barron recognized the influence of long-form, unscripted conversations on platforms like Rogan's podcast, which has a massive and diverse following. Donald Trump's episode on Joe Rogan's show became one of the most watched interviews of the campaign season, with over 52 million views across platforms. In the interview, Trump touched on familiar topics like the economy and foreign policy but also allowed more off-the-cuff discussions that appealed to a broader base. The more relaxed and conversational format gave him space to connect with audiences who might not tune in to cable news. What's particularly interesting is that this marks one of the first times a major political candidate has directly credited a member of their family, especially someone as young as Barron, with making such a high-impact media strategy call. Trump even joked during the Rogan episode that Barron knows this world better than any of us. Beyond the Joe Rogan episode, Barron's behind-the-scenes influence signaled a generational shift within the Trump campaign. Sources close to the family mentioned that Barron had been closely following trends on platforms like YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok, not just for entertainment, but to understand how younger voters consume political content. This informed his push for appearances on shows hosted by creators like Adin Ross, who, like Rogan, has a substantial Gen Z and millennial fanbase. Melania Trump, in her Fox and Friends interview, shared that Barron not only advised on where to appear but how to present, encouraging his father to be more casual, joke more, and avoid the kind of scripted rhetoric typical of traditional rallies. That advice paid off. The Rogan interview trended across social platforms for days, with clips going viral on TikTok and X, formerly Twitter. Political analysts noted that Trump's new media presence helped soften his image among some undecided young voters, not necessarily flipping their political stance, but making them more willing to listen. And with youth voter turnout continuing to rise each cycle, that kind of inroad is significant. Want a breakdown of what Trump said on Rogan that made the biggest splash, or more about how Barron's strategy compares to other modern campaign tactics? The Joe Rogan episode with Trump wasn't just popular because of who was on it, it was how the conversation went. Unlike traditional interviews, Rogan gave Trump space to riff, joke, and even reflect. The tone was more relaxed, and that worked to Trump's advantage. Key moments that stood out. AI and free speech. Trump expressed concerns about AI and censorship, and Rogan actually agreed with parts of his argument. That moment caught fire online, with even non-Trump supporters saying, "Okay, this was worth hearing." Health and age. Rogan joked about both candidates' ages, and Trump took it in stride. He even roasted himself a bit, which made him seem more relatable. Some clips of that moment went viral under the caption, "This is the most human I've seen him." Barron shout out. Trump mentioned Barron mid-show, crediting him for the idea to do the podcast. Rogan smiled and said, "Sounds like your kid gets it." That small moment ended up being a headline across major outlets. What made the interview so effective is that it wasn't trying to be a campaign speech. It was just a conversation, and that authenticity resonated. From a strategy lens, Barron Trump basically did what top-tier digital consultants get paid millions for: spot where attention is going, and steer the message there before the competition does. The rise of influencer-driven politics. We're seeing a real pivot from traditional political marketing to influence by association. In the past, a candidate needed cable news, editorial endorsements, and big stage debates. Now, a well-timed sit-down with a podcaster like Rogan or a streamer like Adin Ross can reach tens of millions without the media filter. Why it works? Authenticity beats polish. Voters, especially Gen Z and millennials, are deeply skeptical of rehearsed talking points. Long-form podcasts create a space where a politician can't hide behind soundbites, but if they hold their own, they come off real. Algorithmic spread. Clips from these interviews aren't just passively watched, they're clipped, remixed, memed, and shared. One solid Rogan moment turns into 100 TikToks and thousands of tweets. New gatekeepers. Rogan, Lex Fridman, and even controversial streamers like Aiden Ross are becoming the new opinion shapers. They don't have the legacy credentials, but they have trust, and that's currency now. Trump's appearance on Rogan's podcast wasn't the first of its kind, but it was the biggest signal yet that campaigns will need to treat these platforms with the same weight they gave 60 Minutes or CNN 10 years ago. Barron's role in that. That a teenager, now just barely 18, is the one flagging this shift and pushing his father to embrace it. Wild, but also believable. Barron grew up online. He knows where his generation hangs out, who they listen to, and what kind of messaging turns them off. And in a way, he kind of acted like Trump's unofficial digital strategist: no title, no press releases, but massive impact. That's going to influence how campaigns build teams in the future too. Expect more Gen Z consultants, even influencers themselves, shaping strategy from the inside. How other politicians are, or aren't, catching on. So far, most mainstream politicians, especially older ones, are still relying on legacy media strategies. You'll see them doing Sunday shows, town halls, carefully managed press briefings. But the truth? That model doesn't scale to younger voters. A few have dipped into new media, but often it feels forced. For example, RFK Jr. made moves by showing up on Rogan and other alternative podcasts, and it gave him a quick surge. But he hasn't consistently maintained that presence or learned how to ride the algorithmic wave the way Trump did. Vivek Ramaswamy leaned heavily into influencer and podcast culture, hopping on with everyone from Patrick Bet-David to Barstool to Twitter Spaces with Elon. It helped him build quick name ID, even if it didn't ultimately translate to votes. AOC is probably the closest on the left to truly getting it. She does Instagram lives, streams on Twitch, and speaks in the informal, meme-literate style Gen Z relates to. But she's the exception, not the rule. The ones who really get it. Not politicians, influencers themselves. People like Hassan Abi, Destiny, or even controversial figures like Sneeko and Aiden Ross command massive attention, and if they start engaging politically, as many already have, they can swing real perception. Looking ahead to 2028 and beyond. What Barron helped unlock in 2024 is just the beginning. Here's where this is all likely headed. Campaigns will hire creators as strategists, not just media buyers or ad people. They'll want people who understand the tone, pacing, and humor of platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and whatever comes next. Candidates will build their own media ecosystems. Not just showing up on Rogan, but having their own podcast, their own streamers, their own discords. Think, political fandom. Voter outreach will get hyper-targeted and vibe-based. Instead of saying, "I'm for policy X," campaigns will try to feel like the vibe of the voter base. That's already happening with meme accounts, ironic merch, and influencer collabs. So yeah, Barron Trump may have just nudged his dad into a podcast chair, but in doing so, he also cracked open a door to what the next era of political influence looks like. The Future-Proof Campaign Strategy, 2028 edition. 1. The candidate as content creator. Forget polished press conferences and flag-draped stages. The modern candidate has their own podcast or video series. Weekly fireside chats, Q&As, even behind-the-scenes clips. Think less State of the Union, more Patreon vibes but free. Streams casually. Not about speeches, just showing up, reacting to news, taking questions, maybe even gaming. It's about presence. Leverages personality. Voters want to like who they're following. Humor, authenticity, and even showing flaws now build trust faster than policy white papers. 2. A creator cabinet. Instead of just advisors and pollsters, campaigns will have a meme squad. Not a joke. A team that crafts shareable, platform-native content in real time. Platform liaisons. People who know TikTok, YouTube, X, and whatever comes next, and can get content boosted organically through networks of influencers. Influencer surrogates. Think of them like digital field agents, streamers, YouTubers, or TikTokers who publicly back the candidate and speak to niche communities. 3. Campaign infrastructure as media hub. Discord servers, not phone banks. Voter engagement happens in chat rooms, not call centers. Mods are your new campaign captains. Daily content drops. Reactions to the news cycle, influencer collabs, mini documentaries, Twitter spaces. Live stream rallies. But not just a boring stream of someone on stage. Dynamic, chat integrated, behind the scenes energy. Like an IRL x Twitch hybrid. 4. Policy via storytelling. You won't win Gen Z with 20-point plans on a PDF. You win them with a 90-second TikTok that emotionally explains why it matters. Candidates will need to master narrative framing, not just what they want to do, but how it fits into a bigger vision they can mimify, clip, and remix. 5. AI plus virality equals momentum engine. Campaigns will use AI to test content, remix speeches, autoclip videos, and rapidly respond to trends. Real-time feedback loops from social platforms will tell them what's hitting and what's falling flat, and the campaign will adjust tone daily. So, is this good or terrifying? Depends on who you ask. It democratizes influence, makes things more open, authentic, and people-powered. But it also blurs lines between politics and entertainment, between reality and performative storytelling. Whoever learns to walk that line without falling off. That's your 2028 frontrunner. Conclusion: the Barron Blueprint. Barron Trump might not have run any official part of the 2024 campaign, but what he did was light the fuse on a new kind of political playbook, one where cultural fluency matters more than political pedigree, and where influence isn't granted by media networks but earned through platforms and personalities. What his move shows is this: the future of politics isn't about just being seen, it's about being shared. And the people who know how to ride that wave, speak that language, and connect through chaos, they're going to win hearts, minds, and elections. Trump on Rogan wasn't just a one-off moment. It was a pivot point. A sign that campaigns are becoming creators, politicians are becoming personalities, and strategy is being written by people who understand memes better than they understand polling. So whether you find that exciting, weird, or even a little dystopian, it's happening. And thanks, in part, to Barron, 2028 just got a whole lot more interesting.